Sorry.
Yeah.
It's the old multitasking thing. Can I talk and not get hit by a
Maybe I
truck at
shouldn't
the
ask
same
you
time?
questions in the middle of a junction. Maybe we'll make that a rule.
In Friday afternoon traffic in Cape Town in a heat wave.
Welcome to the Wild Dispatch.
Hello and welcome to the Wild Dispatch. I'm Robin and I'm back with more skills and stories from the wild. Tudor is a rabid fly fisherman, a man who gets out and about having extreme adventures. But not only is that the case, he's also the editor and one of the founders of the Mission Fly Fishing magazine, which in my opinion is probably the best fly fishing magazine in the world. That just has something spicy about it. It has a sense of humor and a style above all others. I've probably just ruined all potential interviews with other fly fishing magazines now, but they probably don't listen to this anyway, so who knows. We do things a little bit differently in this episode. Rather than just sitting at someone's house, which admittedly probably would have been sensible on the day that we recorded this because it was something like 42 degrees Celsius in Cape Town, which I don't know what that is. It's over 100, I think, in Fahrenheit. Rather than doing that, we decided to go on a road trip delivering the latest edition of the Mission Fly Fishing magazine. So we hopped around all over Cape Town and the outer area. And talked about all kinds of interesting stuff. We talked about fishing, life, AI, even. There's a whole wonderful mixture of conversational topics in there. So this one's a good one. Once again, a huge thank you, Tudor, and thank you to the Mission Fly magazine for creating such an amazing free product for all of us to enjoy. Okay, here he is now.
Well, so we've got about 10 minutes, you said.
10-15 till we get to the first stop.
Okay, first of all, I got to make sure I'm saying your name correctly. Tudor.
Tudor.
Yeah. Welcome to the podcast, dude.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on. Or thanks for being in my car. Kind of weird how you just appeared here.
Yeah. Exactly. So we're doing a little bit of a different poddy today. Arguably, maybe one of the less wild ones in terms of actual geological location, but we are we're on a mission to deliver the mission today, which is a fly fishing magazine, an amazing magazine, I should add. One that came on my radar, across my radar, I guess, when my brother-in-law, who has taken me off on a few family trips that happen to also coincide with being fly fishing locations. So I end up doing a bit of fly fishing over there. Not very well, I need to definitely caveat from the very beginning.
Sure.
So yeah, I think we stopped in at a fly fishing shop and I found your magazine.
Is this in Paarl?
No, this was actually in Joburg. Those guys live up in Joburg, so
Right.
they often go off and take trips, and we're either rivers or dams and you know, camping with the kids, that kind of thing. So
Yeah, very South African kind of outdoor lifestyle vibe.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But I guess it just made an impression on me. I was like, this is an awesome magazine. Like the way it's put together.
Great.
It's got a great sense of humor as well, which I think doesn't always... I don't know, people get serious, don't they?
They do, and that was kind of one of the motivating factors for launching the magazine in the first place. Sorry if I just launch into this, but I have a magazine background, and my two co-founders on the magazine, Brendan Boddy is our art director. He came out of a skateboarding magazine called Session and a hipster magazine called The Lake, you know, the kind of thing with like moody mascara on the face and, I don't know, menstrual blood just trickling down an ear, and it's all art and fashion and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So his background was alternative magazines. Mine was mainstream magazines, like men's magazines, GQ, Men's Health, Best Life, those kinds of things. And then the third co-founder is Conrad Boertis, who's kind of like the enfant terrible of South African art world, renowned artist and
Yes.
sort of naughty boy, and a bloody good fly fisherman. And I'd been fishing for years, as had those guys, but I'd never contributed to a fly fishing magazine just because none of them really appealed. We've got a Afrikaans term here called oudoos, which basically means like old fart, like you would in the UK. And
It's a very gentle interpretation.
yeah, if you know what I'm saying. Well, it actually means old box, but different meaning of box. Anyway, and the three of us got talking, and we were like, why isn't there a fly fishing magazine that speaks like we speak, that jokes like we joke, that reflects our friends, our scene, our crowds, and how we interact with each other? And it ranges from, blue collar guys to white collar guys, and just the language and the opinions, and just maybe trying to get away a little bit from the cliche of someone who's into fly fishing being your weird uncle who wears tweed and picks up roadkill. I mean, we still pick up roadkill, but you know what I mean? Like, so anyway, we decided to do our own thing. And on paper, if you looked at our kind of collective career makeup, it was probably a very bad idea because it's three creatives.
Yes, there isn't anyone running, making sure shit doesn't go wrong.
Exactly. And, we came up with a mock-up of the first magazine, and we went on a roadshow around South Africa talking to various brands that we thought would be viable advertisers. And surprisingly, quite a few of them actually jumped at it, just without even an actual proof of concept.
Wow, okay.
They
Pretty early on.
Yeah, I think they clearly... Look, I mean, we have some credentials because of the things that we'd done in our careers, but I think, like us, they wanted something fresh or something new to kind of put some energy into the scene. So quite a few came on board.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, sure.
What did you show them in that pitch
we-
moment?
we-
Did you have a visual? Or?
No, we had a PDF of, our first issue, or it was about 80-90% done, and, how we saw it going.
Yes.
And so that was quite strong. I mean, we'd shot our cover, our issue 1 cover shoot at the Castle of Good Hope in Cape Town, in downtown Cape Town, which,
So
for those that don't know, is, from the Dutch East India Company. It's one of the oldest buildings in South Africa. It's got a moat around it, which has like these sort of skeletal carp cruising, and lots of pollution in there as well.
Pretty big fish.
No, there are some big fish there.
Yeah.
And Conrad tied a cigarette stompy fly, like a butt end fly, made of deer hair. And we roped in the guys from Fly Brew who were doing videos to come and shoot it. And we had a fashion photographer actually from Bod's Relationships at the Lake, a guy called Oliver Kruger, came to shoot that cover. And it actually all happened way too fast. Conrad, just as a sort of test cast, he flicked this stompy cigarette butt fly out.
Yeah.
It got smashed by a carp. We were on, and we knew that, like, actually this was our moment. So we've got all this ridiculous footage and B-roll photos of Bod holding onto Conrad's legs as he's dropped into the moat with a net and trying to drag him out, and then a soldier from the SANDF, the Defence Force, because it is technically a national key point, like if you were at a military installation.
Like a protected location.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tourist spot, but, anyway, so this guy comes to us and is like, in no short order, you must fuck off. And, so we've even got him, but his face blanked out, telling us to get lost in the thing. And Oliver, to his credit, managed to get the shot. We also went out of our way to have a cityscape in the background, because a lot of the media in South Africa is based in the Cape, and there's a kind of it's called like mountain syndrome, where you're constantly trying to put like Table Mountain in the backdrop, and it becomes a bit cliched. So Conrad was dressed as a taxi tout in a kind of 70s suit with a dodgy hat, and it was just like really way out there for the first cover. And then subsequently, I mean, we're kind of known for our covers for doing
Bonkers
things pretty different to anyone else. But anyway, going back to the business makeup of who we were. So we launched the magazine, and we actually were like, oh shit, we should probably have a website. So, we quickly hustled to get one of those, and a bank account. And we should probably have a business relationship, like, how are we doing this thing? How are we dividing this microscopic pie? And then anyway, we sort of retrofitted anything. And one thing I will say is that I think doing it the wrong way around was probably the right thing for us, because if you'd forced us to do all the admin at the beginning, it would have taken the wind out of our sails.
Yeah, it would have been too boring.
Yeah, creatives, for our sins, we shy away from admin. So I think it worked out well in the end.
I definitely think that's a good plan, right? You get stuck in deep so that you can't actually get out of it with the fun stuff first, and then you've got to figure out the other shit through essential, and then it's a bit more exciting because you've got to figure it out in a short period of time, right?
Exactly.
So I want to ask you, and I want to go into a bit more detail about tying flies and stuff. Yeah. I never realized this detail. So you said you made a stompy, or was it Conrad made?
Conrad tied a stompy fly.
Actually made a fly that looks like a cigarette butt, because I thought it was a real cigarette butt.
No. Well, then it wouldn't be fly fishing. Then it would be some really bizarre form of bait fishing. So it had a kind of caramel-coloured deer hair towards the bend of the hook, and white deer hair towards the eye. And deer hair floats really nicely. It's very buoyant, and so obviously the caramel coloured stuff would be the filter, and the rest would be the actual nicotine in the white paper.
Amazing.
And look, I mean, I think those carp in the moats at the castle get fed a lot of bread, and I'm sure the odd stompy goes in there. Maybe they've got a nicotine habit, who knows? And it was really funny. I mean, because we had lots of people going like, "Oh, give us the fish!" Like leaning over, like, because we're fly fishermen, so it's catch and release for the 90% of the time, And I definitely don't want to eat a carp from the castle moat.
Yeah.
So yeah, it couldn't have worked out better. It really we got very lucky with that first shoot.
That's awesome,
it was
though.
What we'd scheduled. Like maybe we'll be there for an hour and a half, and I think it was over in 15 minutes. It was just one of those ones where you snap into action.
Okay, you're at your stop.
We're at our first stop, Suburban Auto Spares. Give me 2.5 minutes, and I'll be back, and I leave this with you.
Yep, sounds good. Perfect.
Do you want me to leave the aircon on?
Whatever you think, man. If it's fine, I can sweat for 2 minutes.
Actually, no. I have to open the back.
Yeah.
I can open a window there. I don't want you. Sorry.
Cheers.
Passing out.
Dogs die in hot cars.
Right. Tally ho.
Okay. I ditched the trying to do it on this software, because I should have. I mean, I even got a Starlink here, but I couldn't deal with trying to set up a Starlink.
Jeez, you brought a Starlink. Wow.
Yeah, I know. Can't help myself with the gadget. So I like the idea of podcasting from the boonies in the middle of nowhere at some point. But I think the whole point is that you can't connect to the internet.
Yeah, I mean, if you need to upload it, for sure, but I think being in the boonies, you want to be in the boonies, right?
Exactly, man. It's a slippery slope, though, hey? Actually, I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's exciting. You've set this magazine up, and it really gained momentum quickly. And this is something I personally experienced with setting up the podcast. You want to do this cool thing celebrating what you're really passionate about, but then that's a whole extra load of work.
Yeah, no, it is. And you also come to the, like with my co-founders, we also readjusted after a couple of years.
Yes.
Because Conrad always wanted to be more kind of hands-off on it. Okay. So he was never interested in the day-to-day running, but he was more of like a kind of creative director. And then I found I was doing, the editorial and ad sales and all the admin.
Yeah.
And Bod wanted to focus on the design. So we kind of recalibrated our partnership. Everyone's still involved, but
just in different ways.
In different ways and percentages on that front.
So I guess my question is then, in that recalibration as well, did you find at the beginning that you weren't fishing as much as you used to, or like you weren't able to do the fun stuff as much as you were because you were pulled into this thing, and then did you manage to find a way to fix that?
No. I mean, especially it's so bizarre to kind of think that we've been going for 10 years now. You know, we launched at the end of 2016 and we're now in 2026. So almost, well, it's more 9.5, but we're in our 10th year.
Yeah.
Heading into our 10th year. No, the first few years there was actually a lot more fishing and a lot more excitement around it. It's not that we're not excited about it now, but it's more life has developed. So, you know, marriage, kids, just time. I think as anyone who's got those dynamics in their lives will tell you, it's very difficult to
reframed,
to fit it all in. I mean, my kids are now sort of 3.5, and I'm starting to claim back a semblance of an adult life, and I can go on, you know, multi nights away fishing trips as opposed to first couple of years of their lives where, you know, geez, can I shoot out for a morning? Because, well, kids full stop, but twins.
Oh, I was going to say, you said my kids are both 3.5. Twins is a whole other thing. Hey?
Yeah, exactly. So, look, I mean, we're all always dead keen to go and fish as much as we can possibly humanly fit into our lives. It's just always a question of time, money, and capacity, like with anyone else's lives. It's not, people think because you run a fly fishing magazine that, like, you're constantly on a sort of fishing an atoll and and there are perks, and we do get to do those kinds of things from time to time whenever we can fit it in. But just like anything else, we've got to make the jigsaw parts fit and also make sure everything is still, you know, doing well on the commercial front. Otherwise, if you take your eye off the ball, it can all fall down.
Yeah, definitely. So why, I mean, you decided that you wanted to create a magazine, but this is maybe a bit of a pointed question, but like, why make a free magazine?
So, I mean, it's not, on paper, it's not exactly a sort of genius business idea. I didn't go to the Bezos or Musk finishing school of cutthroat commercialism or something. But in the early 2000s up into 2010, up to 2020 or so, I was involved in magazines. Yeah. And I just saw the decline. Yeah. Big international titles, where I worked for the South African versions like GQ or Men's Health used to have these giant print runs, and we're, on every newsstand in every supermarket and whatnot, and their numbers were just plummeting. And obviously you go through this cycle where the ad agencies are like, oh, print is dead and it's all digital and that's the future, and print is pointless is the kind of messaging that comes across, right? Yeah. And at the same time, some brands tried the free thing you would have seen in the UK, like those free newspapers on the tube and all that kind of stuff. Yep. And Brendan, or Bod, his name is Brendan Body, but he's known as Bod. Okay. Body as in literally your body. Weirdly enough, Facebook wouldn't let him call himself Brendan Body. They thought it was a spoof thing, so he has to come up with another name. With the lake, that was a free title, and he liked that model because it's very low admin. You send it out, you don't have to kind of do the sales recount and all that kind of stuff. Yes. And also we just felt like with the decline of magazines, at the time a magazine was about 40-50 rand. Even now our competitors in the fly fishing space in South Africa, I think they charge 180 to 200 rand as wow, which is a hell of a lot of money.
It's like more than $10.
Yeah, and especially like it needs to be a very original offering, and it's not. So we just thought, let's try this model, and the idea being you remove the barriers to entry, both online and in print. If your covers are interesting and if your content is original and there's a sense of humor and the focus is on the storytelling and the why you should fly fish, as opposed to the how-to approach of many fly fishing magazines or outdoor magazines. Yes. And it's not to say that we don't do the how-to stuff, but we save that for the website. I'm never going to dedicate 10, 12 pages in an article, with step-by-step photos on how to cast or tie a fly. That's for video, or it's for online where it doesn't cost you.
And I can imagine as well that there is more and more amazing content out there that people are just generating, showing you how to do that stuff on YouTube or wherever.
And a lot of people want to be involved and tell those stories. So to come back to the free thing, it just made sense. And I think maybe if it was, if we were in the UK or the US, it wouldn't have made sense. But I think in the South African market with the economy, we were like, actually, let's see if we can grow the scene.
Yeah.
And if you build a strong enough platform, the brands want to be on there.
Yes.
So that's where we, pay our bills through advertising, and then you build enough support that you can also sell some merch. And then, the next obvious steps are events and podcasts and, ads in videos and all that kind of stuff. So
I wonder as well, like you were saying before, it's big, more generalist kind of magazines, whereas you've created something that's very niche. It's like super specific audience. And I wonder if it's like people are saying, oh, magazines are dead. But actually, it's not, as long as you have a captive audience. And I can't think of a better audience of people who are like, who's more dedicated than people who tie their own flies and make those
totally. And people will, in the fly fishing scene, I mean, the spectrum is huge. You've got these tiny flies, like sort of size 32 whatevers, where people are arguing over the bull hairs on an ant. And then you've got flies that are literally the length of your forearm that are being cast at fish like giant trevally or tarpon, which are, some of them are almost the length of this car.
Really?
So fly fishing has this spectrum from guys fishing ultralight rods in streams that are no more than a meter wide for tiny trout or whatever other species, and then guys going for
monsters.
And it's all fitness and can you cast it and can you fight it, and it's just this vast spectrum that goes across the planet, and it's really interesting, like all the sub tribes between it. So we are a niche within fishing, which is kind of its own, I mean, it's not really a niche, but fly fishing is a niche within fishing, and then within fly fishing there are so many other like micro niches, and guys, you get generalists. I'm a generalist. I will fish for anything from a fish the size of my pinky finger up to tarpon or GTs or something, but you get other guys who are literally like, they will only fish the Cape streams for trout. A lot of people come to fly fishing as trout fishing. They conflate the two things as they always refer to it as trout fishing.
Okay.
And then you get other people who will only do saltwater fly fishing or whatever it is.
One of my friends is he would only salt fish, but I think he said that once he went to like maybe it's an atoll, is that the term he was at? Like, it kind of ruined river fishing for him after that, because what he was telling me, this is Callum, I actually asked him beforehand if I should ask you any questions, and because I confess I don't know very much about fly fishing. But he was saying the thing he loved about that is it's more of a nature of stalking a fish in that clear water, is that you can see the fish and you can make a choice and you can make a play, and you it's about placing that fly exactly where you want to place it and seeing it react. And so it's a bit more like spot and stalk in a way of the fishing world. Does that make sense?
It is, yeah, and that makes perfect sense. But it's there's so many things going on, and you can nerd out to the degree that you're happy with. So some people literally don't want to tie their own flies or anything, and that's totally fine. They just get them at a store and they go and they know that these 5 flies generally produce. Other people are like, okay, according to this time of year, and I'm looking around in the sky and there's a hatch, and by the shape of the bug, I think that's a caddis or it's a mayfly, or it's this specific mayfly that only hatches, in the mid-afternoon, and they open their fly box and they've got 30 different variants in size and weight, and looking at the thorax and so there are people who will apply, I mean, so many academic kind of things to it, whether it's biology or entomology or even weather nuts, exactly what's going on when. So you really can be as nerdy as you want, or just be there for, as you say, that kind of hunt and stalk aspect. Most of the time you'll see a fish and you'll, like when you're talking about your friend on the streams, you'll see, is it rising? Is it actually coming up and eating something off the surface, or are you watching it kind of feed in the current lower down, and in which case it's more likely to eat a nymph. And actually the majority of fish in those circumstances are eating subsurface, but the most entertaining part of fly fishing, in my opinion, is always going to be stuff that happens on the surface, whether it's in the salt with a giant popper and a fish chasing it, and it's all very visual, and gets the adrenal glands going, or even if it's a small trout eating bugs off the surface and you cast a dry fly, you get the same level of thrill. Well, it depends who you are, but I do.
Do you tie your own gear?
I do.
So I guess
I used to do it a lot more.
Obviously time permitting. So I guess there's an element, like I'm a bow hunter, and I think there's similarities. Well, obviously you don't catch and release unless you it's usually against your own will if that happens. But what I was going to say is, you can go into the level of detail that you want. So I build my own arrows, and I haven't got to this stage yet, but people make their own like traditional bows and all that kind of stuff, right? So for me, it's like when you've like had involvement in every single part and really considered all those details, when you are successful at last at something that's really difficult and you've had a hand in every single thing, I think that can result in more sense of achievement because you've been all over the whole project.
Absolutely. There's like a deep sort of primal satisfaction that this advanced monkey with massive brain power has convinced this puny fish with a tiny brain to eat a combination of fur and feathers and maybe synthetic materials, and I fooled it into thinking that's a bug. I mean, geez, if that's not the pinnacle of human advancement, I don't know what is. But seriously, no, I know what you're talking about, and there is something deeply satisfying when you've tied your own flies, and I'm sure it's when you make your own arrows, or make your own longbow, or whatever it is. And look, I mean, fly fishing, like I said, most guys do catch and release unless it's a very prevalent species and the stocks aren't in trouble, or you do get venues that kind of specifically with trout that insist that you keep them, and it's part of how they make them. That's part of how they make their money. But also, personally, I think, like, we're so far away from the natural world in many respects, but we have this instinct to fish or to hunt. And fly fishing, especially, if you're using barbless hooks and it's catch and release, it's a way of doing it, scratching that kind of hunter provider primal thing without doing damage. And if everyone did it and kept everything they caught, then we really wouldn't have fisheries, because overpopulation and everything else. So I think the joke is often with dating profiles on like Tinder or Bumble or whatever the apps are, men with fish. And there's this thing. I mean, you think back to like our grandfather's time where guys would go fishing and they'd catch way more than they needed, and they'd kind of lay it out on a lawn. And you'd have like 3 guys and 30 to 50 dead fish, and sure, they could give some to their friends and family, but what if they put the rest in a freezer and forget about it? And those days are gone. And there's a reason, we love to take a photo with the fish we caught. We're proud, and there's probably like a deep part of us that's going, hey, look, family, if it was Armageddon, I could provide if you gave me the right combination of feathers and fur. I just think we're still trying to scratch that itch. It's probably like a vestigial limb, that's still there. We've got that primal hunter thing, even though the vast majority of us stalk the aisles of the supermarket for a kind of skinless chicken breast. That's where we are now, and it's not our fault. Well, I mean, as a species it is, but individually not.
Lots of different directions we could go in. It looks like we are at our next place.
Yeah, we're going to go around to the back of this shop.
What I was going to say is, it seems like there is and I think this is a nice thing. This self, well, in a way, I mean, there's like different opinions about this, I guess, but not taking the fish yourself, right? So other people can experience the wild, experience the act of catching a fish and that whole process. But what I wanted to ask you about is, that sounds very selfless, but is there like competitive nature between fly fishermen? Like if you end up in the same spot on a river and it's like, does that exist? Or, I mean, what's the kind of culture there?
Yeah, there are various layers to the competitive thing in fly fishing. There's formal competition fly fishing. They're like run by the French. The internet.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's a thing called FIPS, which, if I can get it right, it's probably like something like Fédération Internationale Pêche something.
Yes.
And they have world champs, and it'll be held in different countries, and there are rules and regulations right down to like the weight of the bead you're allowed to use and this kind of thing. And so we've got the competition scene here in South Africa as well. Some people love it, some people hate it. It's kind of controversial.
Why is that? There's like some, because I found that when I looked online, there's some sort of ethical question about competition fly fishing.
Yeah, I mean, we ran an article on it not that long ago. Some say that they overpressure the rivers because, specifically with euro nymphing techniques, a guy can sit in a run and catch 20, 30 fish, whereas your average guy, who, even if he's a very, very good angler, may only get 5 fish on a dry fly out of that. Or the idea, you're not necessarily there to get great numbers, whereas competition fishing encourages, who caught the most fish. So that's one aspect to the kind of competition mentality between fly fishermen, is the formal competition fishing. And then, look, finding someone on the water you intended to fish is quite rare when you're fishing rivers that are run by organizations or clubs. So say, for example, in the Western Cape where we are, we've got the Cape Piscatorial Society, which is the local club that kind of runs the rivers, and they allocate beats. So you want to fish on Saturday on the Smallbrow River, on Transport Beat or Hotel Beat or whatever it is, or beat number 6, they will allocate it to you. And technically, you may find someone else on your water who's not affiliated with the club. There's nothing you can do about that. You don't own the water, but if you find another fly fisherman from the club there, then you could have an argument to be a bit pissed off.
Have you been in those situations before?
Yeah, we all have. And there's nothing you can do. You just hope that they haven't traipsed down your entire section of river, or you sit under a bush for a while and just take a chill pill and rest the water and continue. It's not worth getting upset. And then in terms of competitiveness, I think like any sport or any niche, it's also in human nature. People compete over who's caught the biggest or who was the first to catch that specific kind of fish on fly in this territory. There's a lot of claiming of first and stuff, and that's just human nature. There's egos, especially the demographics are changing, but it's a largely male thing still. And there's a lot of chest thumping. Fly fishing is a huge part of my life, but I would be lying if I said it didn't attract an inordinate amount of weirdos. It does. And they're amazing. They bring so much to the sport. I'm probably a weirdo too, but also lots of captains of industry. Guys, big swinging dicks, who are the kind of top of their scene, and then they all arrive on like some pristine atoll on a very expensive trip, and there's competition between them. I mean, you talk to the guides, you hear about these egos and these things going on. So it's a spotlight on humanity. You're going to get them, and I know you get it in the hunting industry as well. I've got hunting friends, guys who were PHs, guiding in Tanzania or Zambia or wherever, and they would see a kudu and looking through the binoculars with a client, and the guy would be like, I don't know the measurements on the horns, but like, is that a 58-incher? And they've got the almanac from that year, and they know that their buddy got a 60-incher, and the guide's like, I think it's a 60. I can't, from this distance, I can't guarantee. Sure. And they shoot it, and it costs whatever, that's a $5,000 antelope, and no, it's a 59-incher, and he's either angry or he needs another one, and it's so dick measuring, literally, in fish, in antelope, in elephants. If you're in the hunting world, that's not my scene. But
in everything,
it's there.
It is. I mean, I used to ride and race bikes a lot, road racing, and I remember going once on a tour through the Italian, the Dolomites, maybe. No, is that right? But anyway, big mountains, and I'd been doing a lot of racing. I was in good shape, and I was riding with like England rugby team people, other guys. But the funny thing is, it's like these people who are huge characters in the world of sports and stuff, but because I mean, I could put them into discomfort going up a mountain. Yeah. And it there's immediately like some kind of respect or understanding of one another. Like, these guys have achieved so much more than me. Yeah. But because I can push a bicycle a little bit faster up a hill. Sure, it puts some things into perspective for them. But I mean, I find cycling a fascinating kind of microcosm. I worked on the Cape Epic for many years. Okay. In the helicopter or chasing the lead riders or whatever, not because I'm a hardcore cyclist, just it was a media gig that I did. But I know that with the cycle tour, the one that just happened in Cape Town, there's an incredibly competitive section of riders below the top pros. Yes. And people are aiming for whatever the boastable kind of cutoff time is. I don't know if is it a sub 4 or a sub 3 or whatever it is, the thing. But like to the extent that there are people like doping and all this kind of stuff, but these are not professional cyclists. And I'm just going ego. But like, who gives a shit? Is it within your little club that you're like, okay, I was third in the general category or something? Like, I mean, really? Yeah. Like, everyone has to have a goal, I think, right? But it's like, what are you prepared to sacrifice for that goal? Yeah, and I mean, okay, and your principles and probably your health with whatever you're putting into your system. But so anyway, that's more a thing on humans in general. And I don't think fly fishing is immune to it. But I think for most, I mean, look, you get the sort of division of people. You get your fly anglers who are like soul surfers, who are all about the wave and the feeling and all of that. And sure, some of them are, the soul surfer fly anglers are amazing anglers and they do catch big fish, but you get some of them who've like reached this transcendental state where they don't even bother taking a photo or something, and they don't really even tell you about it unless you really ask. And like those guys, they're not actually bullshitting. Like they really have kind of reached that Buddha-like state. And then look, people often talk about like the stages of fly fishing where in the early stages you want to catch as many fish as possible, then you want to catch big fish, then you want to I think I've missed one out. At the beginning you want to just fish as much as possible. You just want to catch a fish. And then it kind of goes full circle to like you actually just want to be out fishing. And it's not that important about the size or the quality or the quantity. It's just to be out. It's more about the nature. So I think that's kind of what we're all striving for. Is also to leave the ego at the door. I mean, I would love to go through the bit where I've caught so many, and they were all also went through the bit where they were all massive, where I can just relax. But I'm not there yet. I don't know if many of us are. Exactly. Okay. 2 minutes. Alrighty. Just tell me if I'm rambling too much. No, you're doing great, man. You're doing great.
We're going to continue this conversation in just a second, but first I wanted to politely invite you to do me a favor and, well, first of all, if you could give the podcast a follow, make sure that you are subscribed in the place that you like to listen. That means that you will always be up to date with new episodes coming in pretty much every week these days. Also, if you could leave a review, that would be a fantastic help. It really does help push the algorithms up and means that more people who enjoy wild stuff like you can find us more easily. And then the whole thing grows. I think that's what I'm getting at. Help me, help you, help me. Okay, back to the episode.
So you mentioned before, it's funny because you already brought up that there are subgroups of fly fishers, and there's like, is it fly fishers or fly fishermen? What do you prefer?
Historically, everyone just said fly fishermen, but I like to say fly anglers because
It's not gender specific, I guess.
yeah, it really is changing. Specifically, in like the US and the UK, there are a lot more women fishing.
Mm-hmm.
It is changing in South Africa as well. I've seen the clubs. The demographic makeup. I mean, it's not changing as fast, but it's getting there. And I think it shouldn't be surprising. Like, you know, it's not a sport that requires some kind of grunt, you know.
Yeah, it's not.
I think a lot of guys get it wrong.
Strength.
Like I've tried to teach. I have taught a lot of people how to cast, and I always find teaching women is much easier.
Less ego involved.
Yeah, they just let the rod do the work, and that's kind of what they're designed for. As opposed to, like my brother-in-law, I keep trying to give him lessons, and he's just trying too hard to.
Yeah, that's
force.
me. That's me as well.
Is it?
Muscle.
Yeah.
Can't help it. It's enthusiasm.
Well, yeah. The thing is, you can put some muscle into it, like if you need to. You know, if there's a heavy wind, or if there are moments where a little bit of oomph helps. But 80% of the time, it's really the rod that will do all the heavy lifting for you.
Good technique.
Yeah. I like your GoPro's little hat.
Yeah, well, you know, we should probably name the GoPro. I don't know why Chucky seems to like to bring to mind.
Chucky, all right, done.
The hat is over the GoPro. I should just clarify for people, because I know that if there's a GoPro on the dash of a car in the African sun, then it's going to get a little bit warm, and then it's going to stop working properly. So it's wearing my hat at the moment. You already mentioned some of the subgroups of fly anglers. Are there any which are kind of, who's the weirdest or most dedicated, or like, does other groups spring to mind? Obviously you don't want to offend anyone, but like, no, I think the weirdness is brilliant.
I don't mind offending, you know. So there really are so many different types. Like in the US and Canada, they're the steelheaders.
Okay.
And they fish for essentially a steelhead is like a rainbow trout that runs to the sea and back and comes up these rivers, and they're magnificent. They're super strong and they get quite big. And a lot of their rivers have taken strain because of they've been dammed, and just, you know, like all over the world, rivers have taken strain from human intervention. And steelheaders have this kind of reputation for just being like hardcore. Like they go into these giant icy rivers and they'll cast for not just hours but days on end, kind of quite monotonous. And you know, you get these funny breakdowns of different fly anglers, and steelheaders are kind of like, you know, always listening to death metal and just shut the world out and just go for it. And then look, one of the ones that's often had fun pokes at it is tenkara, which is the Japanese form of fly fishing, and it doesn't actually involve a rod and a reel. It's a telescopic rod with a fixed tapered leader and tippet on the end.
Okay.
So, you know, if we're going along and we see sort of 7 meters over there's a little trout rising, you would make sure your rod is the right length, and your estimation of the rod and the leader together, will it reach where that fish is, and then you flick from there.
Interesting.
And when you fight that fish, you hope your tippet is right, but if you have to run, you have to run. If it's a sizable fish, you know, like to get downriver to get it into a net or something like that.
Cool.
And I mean, it's just a bit odd for the western world side of fly fishing, so it's sometimes teased a bit.
It's interesting. I've never thought about the fact that you have to actually adjust the length of the rod versus having a reel. Like you actually, like, how much you open it out is.
Sure,
so
or you have to get closer very stealthily, you know, kind of clambering over rocks and bushes without scaring that fish. And it comes out of, you know, Japanese streams, which is I think they're quite exposed, and you've got to be super stealthy. So I'm not going to lie, it actually does appeal. I wouldn't mind giving it a bash, but for some reason it's one of the ones that's teased a bit. And then dry fly fishing, they're known as the purists, and they feel like they've been passed down the tradition, and it's their job to protect it and to kind of look down on all these other forms of, whether it's nymphing or chucking streamers, which essentially is what steelheading is. So and then in each country you also get your variations. So you get the guys who go for cob in South African estuaries, which would be the equivalent of being a steelheader in North America.
Okay.
Talk
me through, just so that there's probably some people here that might not be following exactly the difference between nymphing, dry flies, and then
streamers.
Yeah.
Right.
Do you mind just giving a quick outline of that?
Sure. So, look, there's probably going to be some anorak that wants to correct me, but I think it's something like 70 to 80% of aquatic bug life is subsurface.
Okay.
As a bug hatches and goes through the water columns, those are nymphs. If they're under the water, you would count them as a nymph, right? And nymphing is fly fishing with a weighted. Well, they're not always weighted. Some of them are unweighted, but it's a fly that is designed to be under the surface,
just to sort of sink. Okay.
Yeah. Dry fly fishing is when you're trying to imitate an insect that has been flying or is hatching, coming through the surface.
Okay.
So it sits in the surface film or on top of the surface film. And that can be anything dainty like, say, a mayfly or a midge or a flying ant, or something a little bit chunkier like a caddis fly. And then you go right up to the super chunky things. We're talking like grasshoppers, crickets, beetles, even giant locusts. I mean, some dry flies are literally like the size of your middle finger, depending on what part of the world you're fishing in.
Yes.
And, if you're in a South American jungle, the bugs are big.
So they have big flies.
Yeah. And you can also, you get, whether they count as dry flies, but they're flies that are on the surface. You get mouse patterns made of deer hair. I fished those at Jurassic Lake in Argentina. It's amazing watching a big trout come up to smash a fly that really looks very realistically like a little mouse.
Wow.
There's I think she's, I might get this wrong, but I think she's Czech, a woman called Katka Svagarova, who fishes a lizard fly. It's kind of her shtick. She takes it all over the world, and she'll bust out this lizard fly for Murray cod in Australia, or for Dorado and Simane in Bolivia, and it's a segmented floating lizard fly that gets smashed.
Wow, so it's like a foot long, or like 20...
sort of
wow.
20, 30 centimeters by the looks of it.
Wow, that's
so,
cool.
Technically, is that a dry fly? Well, it's a surface fly. And then if you are any of the, fishing salt water, whether in and around South Africa, or you go somewhere exotic like the Seychelles or Maldives, St. Brandon's off Mauritius, Christmas Island, even, Florida, at certain times, some of the predatory species will want to smash a popper or a crease fly or a gurgler or a flipper, which are all variations of floating streamer flies, let's put it that way.
Yeah.
So they're designed to look like bait fish that are kind of nervous or injured and are splatting around on the surface. It's very exciting.
It's like an easy target.
Very exciting to fish that way.
Interesting.
And then to come back to streamers generally imitate bait fish and are fished subsurface, and streamers go from, fishing for an obvious species like trout, bass, some carp actually eat streamers, although they're more into grubbing around for sort of like worm and bug-like things. And then in the saltwater, a lot of fish eat streamers or bait fish patterns. Yeah.
Okay.
So those are like your three main categories. I mean, again, like I said, there's probably an anorak going, well, hang on, that's not technically, and you do get streamers that do this, and but yeah, those are the general
hooray
ones.
for them.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you prefer? to do? Like, I mean, seems like there's so many varieties of different fly fishing. Do you have a favorite?
Anything visual. I always prefer to see the fish
Yes.
smash the fly if I can.
Yeah.
But, I think that's part of the appeal with fly fishing. You never know what you're going to get in terms of the conditions on the day, conditions of the water, the impact of the weather, what you can see in terms of glare on the water. If you've got your polarized sunglasses on, how active the fish are. Is there a hatch on? Are there a lot of bait fish around? Does that run look good for nymphing, or should I be bringing a dry fly down a bubble line? So much of it is kind of like a jigsaw puzzle, or
Yes.
a recipe where you're like, maybe if I try that, it's going to work. And it's unlocking that specific species on that specific day according to the elements and whatever else you can divine out of what you see, what you hear, and also experience. You start to understand fish and fisheries the more you fish. So if I have a favorite, it's just to see what's going on. It's much more exciting. But look, on a tough day, if I get smashed by a fish that I can't see, I'm still very happy.
Still happy.
Yeah.
It's still good.
Yeah.
A smash is a smash.
The what's the cliched line? The tug is the drug. You're sort of sitting there thinking about everything else in the world, and suddenly out of the blue, there's this electric shock down the line, and you're like, "Wait,"
So you're saying that times when you can see... Oh, look, there's an archery range right there.
Yeah. I've actually been to that one.
Oh, you shoot a bow, do you?
No, my brother just wanted me to give it a bash. I mean, I have shot a bow, I have shot a gun, but I'm not an archer or a hunter.
Okay. Yeah. Slight digression there. Apologies.
No, I'm not anti them. I'm just, I'm a little one track, as in like,
yeah, of course.
If I dive fully into fly fishing, it fills my life. It's the same with sport. Like, I have a vague idea what's going on in the football, cricket, or tennis worlds, but like I'm 100% all in on rugby, so I can
tune everything else out.
Yeah, I just feel like I won't have space in my life for other things.
I'm kind of the same.
Yeah, it's a simplification.
I get a little scared around. That's all right. I get a little scared around being exposed to new potential obsessions, which is this fly fishing thing is also a little scary for me, because it's like there aren't really half measures in my life. You go in deep.
Yeah.
So there's always a danger, and I know that there'll be much eye rolling from my wife. Oh, another thing.
Yeah. No, it's funny. You can see people falling into it and falling hard. Like I've watched guys come from conventional fishing, and I've watched people come from no fishing background, and you see the questions start to come through. You see them kind of lurking around the sails, wide-eyed. You see them asking questions on the forums, and I'm like, that guy, he's only been fly fishing for a couple of months, but he is now obsessed.
Watch out.
Yeah, and look, I mean, the general rule is if you're getting into it, sort of 5 or 6 weight. I mean, it's going to depend where you live and what local fishing you've got, but a 5 or 6 weight rod with a floating line, that's your starter drug.
Okay.
And that'll get you trout, bass, carp, and in South Africa, yellowfish, and that'll keep you very busy for the first sort of year or so as you get into it. If you live in coastal areas and you're fishing estuaries or elsewhere in the salt, anything from a sort of 7 to 9 weight rod is a very good entry area for the salt. And then once you get going, unfortunately, or fortunately, you start to find reasons like maybe I need a triple naught weight rod for that redfin minnow, and really a 4-weight rod would be perfect for Lesotho dry fly fishing. And actually the Cape Streams, I've been told it's a 2 or a 3-weight 10-foot rod. And then I need a 7-weight for the Orange River and for local Clan William yellowfish. And then if I am ever going to have that bucket list trip, saltwater trip, to the Seychelles, I needed at least 2 12-weights, because what if one breaks? And and it's not just the rod. With each of these, you need the reels and the lines, and I'm not saying all of this to be off-putting, unless someone's partner is listening, going, "Oh, geez, here we go." But it's a wonderful rabbit hole to fall down and to also kind of explore. And you find like I said, you get the generalist, but a lot of people will go wide, kind of in the mid-range of their fly fishing experience, and then they start to narrow down and go, actually, these are the ones that I love the most. They sell some of their other kit, and they go like, I do the Cape Streams, and I do this.
Figuring it out.
Yeah, that's my thing.
I had a question here, which you've kind of answered, I think, for me, which is like, can you have too much gear?
Yes and no. It is possible. Okay. Let me just drop this one off.
Alrighty. So something I wanted to ask you about, based on that, we're talking about gear and what's the right amount of gear. I'm going to pronounce his name wrong. I know maybe you're not even familiar with the story, but one of the founders of Patagonia. Yeah, go for it.
You're talking about Yvon Chouinard.
Yvon Chouinard, that's exactly...
That's the guy.
Yeah, that's the guy.
Yeah. He likes Tenkara.
Okay, so I remember listening to a podcast with him years ago, and he specifically tapered down his gear to like one specific type of fly, if I'm right, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, but he did that for like a whole year, right? Like he actually really restricted what he had so that he could focus on technique and other things.
So he's actually just released a book called Pheasant Tail Simplicity.
Okay.
And in that he talks about only fishing a pheasant tail nymph. That's the story you're referring to.
Yeah.
And it is one of the classics. It's called a PTN, pheasant tail nymph, and how if you've just got a few of those in a couple of different sizes, some weighted, some unweighted, you can pretty much catch. Well, he would have been focusing on trout, but it also catches grayling, yellowfish, whatever, depending on where you are. And look, that's a large part of his overall philosophy with Patagonia itself, in terms of how they do their clothing and buy less and keep things simple. And he's not wrong. The guys go on the water and they'll take 5 fly boxes and pack to the hilt with everything. I hope someone's going to let me in here. Well, it'll take a while. I need to get into that now. Yeah, you can definitely overdo it, but that's also part of the allure. When you're planning on going fishing, and say if you're tying your own flies, you're like, well, maybe if I have one of these, and
yes,
and then it's also kind of reflective of your personality. Some guys will have, variations in all different colors. Let me see if I can just stick my nose in here. In different weights. Different size hooks across the board, and they're not comfortable because these kinds of guys are slightly OCD unless they've got all of that.
Yes.
Because what if I'm on the water?
Yes.
And I can tell you that the vast majority of the time when I go fishing, especially on our local Cape streams, if I use 5 different kinds of flies in a day, it's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But I will still have at least 3 fly boxes just in case, the circumstances. I don't know, a cormorant speaks to me on a rock and says, you need to put on a flashy purple woolly bugger and all will be revealed, the secret to the universe. So it's one of those things.
Someone said something interesting to me one time. I forget who it was. I think actually it might have been a guy who was on have you ever seen Naked and Afraid?
I know about it. I haven't actually watched it.
No, so it was a guy who was on Naked and Afraid and he ended up shooting eland actually. He said that when you pack a lot of stuff, you're actually packing your fears, which I thought was a really interesting point that he made, because I pack a lot of stuff as well, but it's a constant effort and a learning process to try and take less, because my hyperactive imagination can always think of every eventuality where something goes wrong or I need something and then I'm stuck and I can't figure it out. I thought that was an interesting observation that he made.
Yeah.
It's obvious coming from someone who shows up with nothing apart from his own nutsack on that show.
No, I know what you mean. And look, when we do going for, there's a species called Clan William yellowfish, which are sort of 3 hours from Cape Town in the semi-desert Tankwa Karoo area, or in the Cedarburg.
Yeah, I know what
familiar. And if you're doing a multi-night hike into places like that, and the one I did recently, I think my pack weighed, I don't know, maybe 23 kilograms, 24. It was fine. I kind of trained for a few weeks before it with a weighted vest, a 20 kg weighted vest, so the weight was okay. But when I got back, I was like, okay, didn't need a spare one of those.
Yes.
Didn't need that, and you just start to refine your systems and be honest with yourself. Like, if these were the only flies I used, or did I need those spare lines? Actually, no. Or if you're smart, if you're with a group of friends and you do need a backup between the 2 or 3 of you, that's the way to do it, and then you share the weight. But
coordinate.
I think with experience comes refining of your systems.
Definitely.
The more inexperienced you are, the more you lug around with you.
I think that's definitely what I've been experiencing with hunting, because I'm a late hunting person, like taking that on. I didn't do it when I was young, so for sure the pack was huge at the beginning, and then it's getting smaller and smaller, which makes me happy.
And the scene and the media, they show you all the sparkly new things with all the latest jargon, when all the half of the product description comes with a kind of TM or copyright asterisk on the words, and you're like, I don't even know what half of this means, but that's how the scene survives. They've got to reinvent themselves. I mean, with fly rods, a top of the range fly rod from 5 years ago is still an amazing fly rod.
Yes, but it's not the latest and greatest.
Yeah, and humans love the latest and greatest.
It's what keeps the machine going, I guess.
Exactly.
You got to keep wanting to buy new things. So, I want to ask you a bit more about the mission, kind of the fun that you get to have. You said that there were some amazing perks. Tell me about some, like, I'm assuming you've done some interesting trips or had some cool adventures or like cool fish that you've got to chase.
Yeah.
Does any of those spring to mind? Like, I always love a little story about that kind of thing.
Absolutely. So, let me just see what's going on here. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's the old multitasking thing. Can I talk and not get hit by a
Maybe I
truck
shouldn't
at the
ask
same
you
time?
questions in the middle of a junction. Maybe we'll make that a rule.
In Friday afternoon traffic in Cape Town in a heat wave. Some of the trips I've got to do, I went to Argentina to Jurassic Lake.
It's a good name.
It's a great name. I think the local name is Lago Strobel, but it's called Jurassic Lake because I think it was in the late 80s. Somebody stocked some trout in the river there, and they made it down into the lake, where there's this scud, a little shrimp that just makes the fish grow to these obscene sizes. So I remember my first afternoon there, having put my bags down and gone down to the lake with Ryan Janssens, the photographer or videographer who was with me, and I just saw this thing kind of floating in the water. I was like, oh, is that a log? I mean, it was like the width of this car, and it was this massive rainbow trout. And what proceeded over the course of a week was, whatever my biggest fish had been before, which was probably something relatively modest, you just keep breaking any personal record you might have, even if you're not someone who keeps an idea of, what your record is. It's obscene, the size of the fish there. And then you start to get a bit silly because you're fishing 7-weight rods. That's the kind of recommended weight, but because it's not that difficult to catch a giant fish, you then start going, well, what if I used a 4-weight or a fiberglass 4-weight, which are really bendy and whippy?
So a smaller rod.
Yeah, and what if I were to, instead of throwing a streamer or a nymph, maybe I just throw a giant dry fly? Actually, you know what, let's throw some mice. And you just, like, it's anywhere else in the world, if there was a shot at a fish that big, you would just, make sure, like, no, you've got to need a bigger rod.
Right.
And because it's so obscene, you start to kind of just go a bit crazy with the parameters. And the one day we went up the river to the far upper reaches, because there's a competing lodge that has the middle range, whereas the lodge I was at, Jurassic Lodge, has the mouth of the river and then like 1 kilometer up. And then so what we had to do is we had to go around the other lodge's water into the upper reaches. And up there, the fish were like the normal size we get in the Western Cape of South Africa, kind of, 20 to max 30 centimeter jobs.
Yes.
Nice small river fish.
Yeah.
But some of the big ones, and we're talking, I don't know, 60, 70 centimeter fish had come up that far. So you start to get the perspective again.
Yes.
In amongst, every 50 small fish was a beast, which it was almost important to me to get back into reality of what a big fish is.
Yeah,
when you're like literally walking through them at the mouth of the river, because there's just so many. So that was good. Really great trip. And then you get the kind of wonderful Argentinian side of it with the, the asado barbecue braai in the evenings and fantastic Malbec, and just very special. I've also been to Tanzania, to the Selous Game Reserve. It's now called the Nyerere National Park, but one of the most famous national parks on the planet, the equivalent of, like, I don't know, Yellowstone or something like that, but in Africa, in southern Tanzania. Big game country. We were fishing on the Rufiji River with a bunch called Majestic Rivers, who have a camp there. And you've got an askari with who works for Tanzanian National Parks with an AK-47, and you've got a guide. And you're wading in certain sections where you've got to be careful that, about crocs. And if it's very fast water, you're okay. Super fast. But I know someone's going to hear that and go, debatable. We knew what we were doing in that section, and I'm hyper paranoid about crocs, so I wouldn't have done this if it wasn't vetted. Catching big Tanzanian tigerfish, which is a subspecies. Well, not a subspecies. There are about 5 or 6 different tigerfish species, and they grow very big there. And also, we've got some traffic.
There you go.
There must be an accident up ahead. And we were also catching Niger barbs, which is one of the yellowfish species. And what else were we getting? A thing called a bagrid catfish, which is a kind of pink barbel catfish thing. And there were also vundu, which is that giant catfish you get up there. I mean, literally as long as you.
Really?
And heavier. Yeah.
Wow, like 6 foot something.
Yeah.
Is there any, you kind of reminded me of something I wanted to ask you, talking about having an armed guard with you, and that's because of crocs. But I can imagine if you're trying to go to the deepest, darkest, most unfished areas, fly fishing, there's got to be some hazards that come with that, be it human or animal, or situational, kind of like the environment around you.
Sure.
Has there been any times, first of all, if you had that armed guard, were there any crocs that came along that you needed to?
No, there weren't, but driving back to camp, and we hadn't driven far, maybe 15, 20-minute drive, going slowly, sort of 30, 40 kilometers an hour through the savannah bushveld, just with the river, 50 to 100 meters down on the side. You could still see it through the trees. Yeah. And driving back along a section where we had fished earlier that day, one of the guys with us, Lionel Song, he's the sort of GM of the camp, and he's an old Africa hand. He was like, "Oh wait, there's some lion footprint there." And he and my friend Ryan Wienand, who had set up this trip and who lives in Tanzania, ex-professional hunter, classic African like bush guys, and they kind of just went literally diagonally off the front of the car into the bushes, 20 meters in. We could see them like just digging around there.
You could see what the pH.
You could see Ryan and Lionel going in, just looking,
having a look around,
and then they come out and they go, "Yeah, there's a young lion just sitting in the bush there, a young male."
Wow.
And by young, I mean like grown, but not in a pride anymore. It had obviously been kicked out, so highly capable.
Can still make shit.
No, it could easily make shit, but not that confident a cat, because it's
been kicked out.
It's probably still thinking about its mother, but fully capable of taking down most game.
Wow.
And when we drove forward a little bit, we could all see it, but I was sitting with 2 or 3 bankers in the back of a bucky, and we were like, you guys go, we'll just watch from here. And there were also tsetse flies all over the place, and just like, no. So that was pretty special. And look, there are obviously, parts of South Africa or other parts of Africa where security is a concern. There's petty theft sometimes on the rivers we fish here, where your car window might be broken occasionally. And I know in KwaZulu-Natal some guys carry handguns with them.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know if...
I mean, it's not unusual for an American kind of audience to carry a sidearm.
Yeah, I think that's more for bears than for humans, but actually...
Yes.
I mean, that's a nation that does like guns. It
is.
Yeah. Let's not go there. But yeah, for the most part, if you fish with company, that helps.
Yeah.
And quite often there's safe parking in club-controlled waters. The more off-grid you go, it can also be safer if it's really remote, because there's no one around to harass you. It's that kind of in-between, close enough to a town, but... Yeah,
that's a good point. It's like it's a lot of effort for someone who's going to try and mug you. It's an awful lot of effort and not very much traffic, like footfall. Yeah, if you're going to the middle of nowhere.
Exactly. I mean, the last time I was out going for Clan William Yellows in the Tankwa, our camp was raided, but we think it was by crows.
Okay.
Because we were looking around, there were baboons in the area, but they were very scared of us. I think a local farmer has probably taken some shots at them. And there were these crows that had been flying up and down the river, and, someone's muesli was all over the place, and the coffee, and but they got into the bags and pulled things out.
Yes, yeah.
And it must have been crows. I don't know what else could have got in there. So
they'll
yeah. Where else? I was recently at a place called Sterkfontein Dam, which is...
I'm just going to adjust this slightly.
Sure.
Okay.
It's on the border between KwaZulu-Natal and the Free State, and it's an amazing smallmouth yellowfish fishery. Pretty much dry fly action all day. These things come up for beetles and ants, and just very satisfying fishing. You can fish it along the bank, but I was with a guy called Jeremy Rochester from Escape Fly Fishing, fishing off his boat, and it makes it a lot easier because the weather changes there all the time. It's got like multiple microclimates, depending on what side of a hill you are.
Interesting.
The wind's coming from different directions, so it helps that you're able to change if you need to.
Yeah, if it's not working in one spot.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing you deal with a lot of a lot of people who are writing stories about their adventures and things for your magazine. That's an assumption.
Sorry, can I add one more thing?
Go.
Sorry about that. Another great place I went to, I just want to get it in before we move on.
Do it.
My in-laws live in Australia, so we were there for about 2 months, about a year ago, and I fished for Murray cod in New South Wales with a guy called Josh Hutchins of Aussie Fly Fisher, and that was amazing. These things are like giant largemouth bass. It's an indigenous species to Australia, and they hit lizard flies and mouse flies and whatever else, and ambush predators. Very interesting kind of fishing. And I also went to Tasmania, also with Aussie Fly Fisher, fished their highlands, which are kind of a bit like the tundra. It's quite odd. It's cold and short stumpy
like
trees.
High desert kind of situation.
And hundreds or thousands of lakes. Also fished some rivers. Tasmania is very interesting. I enjoyed that as well. So there's some definite perks of the of the job
for sure.
Excuse me.
I completely forget what I was going to ask
you. You were asking me. I just wanted to get that in before.
No, it's good. It's good.
It'll come to you.
What I was going to ask is, are there any crazy stories of places that people who are writing for you or people have people associated with the magazine, or maybe not, but like people have got themselves into wild mischief because of their desire or addiction somewhere.
Absolutely, all the time. We actually, excuse me, I've got a bit of a frog in my throat.
So good. Do you want some water?
If you've got some,
I've got some here.
Thank you.
Here you go.
Thank you. We ran a story a few years ago. Is this sparkling? Was it?
No.
Okay. About close calls, like near-death experiences while fly fishing, and we just had so many to choose from.
Really? Did you got a lot of people putting in suggestions? Did you do a call out to people?
We did, kind of to our greater circle. Thank you.
Okay.
So a guy called Rion Haynes went to Alphonse in the Seychelles, and it's got a lovely hotel and all of these things on the island, and then you do get guided fishing, but he decided to kind of have an afternoon off to himself, just going for bonefish and permits and whatever else he could find. And he completely misjudged the tides and found himself like way out on a spit as the tides came up, and had to kind of desperately swim, and just made it back, like, on his last legs, no energy left, could have easily drowned, and like crawls up onto the beach, and his like missus is there having a beer and going like, on a deck chair going, "Oh, how's it, babes?" Like, what happened. That friend in Tanzania, Ryan, actually got attacked by a hippo.
No.
There's this insane footage of him and the guy who owns Majestic Rivers, Kevin Stander, and they're fishing away, and then you just see the boat explode as this hippo comes under them, and it lifts the tinny up in the air, and they're kind of half falling over, holding on for dear life. Quite a thing.
That's terrifying.
We ran a story quite recently by a guy called Andrew Savides. He was at Sterkfontein Dam, and they'd packed up on the final morning and decided to have one last sort of like 2-hour-long fish just before leaving. And he went in one direction, his buddies in the other. And he got attacked by a swarm of bees, and he is allergic. And, he hadn't thought about it, but his stuff was just there, not far away as the crow flies to get to it. But he started to, have all the anaphylactic shock effects. And he was very lucky that a guy he'd seen earlier in a boat had sort of spotted him, like, I don't know. He got into the water to avoid the swarm, to try and get away from them, and they kept bombing him and stinging him more. But this guy came and rescued him, pulled him out on the boat, and managed to get back close to where their cars were parked and get the jab in before. I mean, it took him months to come right after that. But very close call.
That's scary.
So there's another guy called Leonard Fleming, who's a very frequent contributor to the magazine and a friend of mine. He was up a river called the Wittels in the Cape Mountains here. It's one of the more hardcore rivers you can fish. It's got brown trout, very tough hike in. And they got stuck in a flash flood, came out of nowhere. The weather changed very fast, and they had to be heli-vaced out of there.
Really?
Yeah. That's very unusual, but it happens. I've been up that river, and there was no rain forecast, and it came up, and my buddy and I were just, we set all these marker rocks along the river, and we would set an alarm as the rain came down that night. And the alarm went off every half an hour, and so we could just see on our 5 or 6 different marker rocks how much it had crept up, just to know that if it got to a certain rock, would we have to just scrape up the tent and just hang on to the side of the slope and wait it out, because it just kept on getting higher and higher. Wow. But fortunately, it tapered off at like 3 a.m.
Man,
so these things happen.
Yeah, that's wild, dude. So, I would love to pick your brains a little bit, if I can.
Yeah, sure.
So I'm going fly fishing in a bit, and I would love to kind of, what's the word? Impress my brother-in-law with some new skills that I have.
Right.
haven't
Do
got
you
my
have
phone.
these new skills yet, or do you hope to acquire them?
You're about to hand
All
them
right,
to me
okay.
now.
Here we go. Here's a gift-wrapped skill.
That's how it
Are you
works,
going
isn't it?
on the Val with him? Is it that spot you shared with me? Or?
We might be. We're going to a place. We're going to a couple of different places. I think one is on the Val, and I think it's Fleurenkloof is the name of the place. I don't know if you know that place.
Okay.
But yeah, a place I think if it's where I think we're going, it's pretty chill, bubbly stream.
Mm-hmm.
I should probably try and find that picture. I caught a tiny fish.
Trout or yellowfish?
It was a trout.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a very small trout, which was my first fish on fly, I've got to say.
Right.
I mean, I guess it's just like general things that I should be aware of, or like what's your mindset in general, I guess, like patience, I guess, is important.
Yeah, patience, observation. Most people rush to the edge of the water and then cast, whereas you should actually try and stay back a few meters initially.
Okay.
Quite often the fish are where you would first go and stand.
But they move away.
Yeah, so look, a lot is going to depend on what's on the banks of the river. Is there a lot of high grass or bushes, or is it easy access? But just approach very slowly and try and fish close in first before you start trying to cast further out. A lot of people, it's just that mindset of I need to cast, and they're trying to cast to the far side of the river or the far side of the lake or whatever it is. There are fish close to you first.
Okay.
Yeah, so don't disregard those. Start close in, and then expand your kind of circle of casting a bit further in each direction, a bit closer. Vary it. If you see fish, and if you are pretty confident you've put your fly in front of it with a decent presentation, whether it's a streamer that you've zipped past its nose or a dry fly that you've drifted over it, and if you don't get a reaction, and if it was a drag-free drift, when your line is not making the fly behave unnaturally,
Yes.
then a good idea is to retrieve your line, change the fly, and wait 5-10 minutes just to give that fish a chance to kind of resume feeding normally, and maybe it'll take the next thing that you put on.
Okay, so patience in that sense is important.
By all means, try and put a few casts with that first fly over it or near it, and make sure that it's seen the fly, and if it's rejecting it because it doesn't like that fly, or it's feeding sometimes fish are so keyed in on what is hatching or what is in front of them that they're not going to go for something else. And once you are pretty confident that fly has been rejected, then it's a good idea just
to move on.
You can either move on to another patch or another fish, or just
Change the gear.
Yeah, sometimes there are not a lot of fish around, so if you find a fish and it is feeding and you haven't properly spooked it, then just sit on the banks for 10 minutes, try and see what it's doing, and try a different fly. It helps.
Yes, okay.
Yeah, and the most important thing before going fishing with your brother-in-law, I don't know what your casting is like, but if you can get your
Mediocre at
casting
best.
right,
Yeah.
just even on a lawn, don't put a fly on there, and just put a piece of fabric or like a piece of wool or string or whatever. Just work on your accuracy.
Okay.
And forget about the distance. That'll come with time. You can increase a meter here and there, but just start working on, can you put that fly or that piece of string right on like a dinner plate? If you can keep doing that and you start getting confident, the rest of fly fishing opens up for you if you can get your casting right. Nothing happens if you can't cast.
Okay. So in terms of perfect position, and I'm sure it varies with the type of fish, but say trout, right in front of the nose, is that where you want to be, or is it better to be slightly further away or over the top of the head? Like what?
Yeah, it really depends what is it a river? Is it a dam? Are you doing upstream dry fly? You obviously don't want to line your actual fly line to land on top of them.
Okay.
That doesn't normally end well. They get scared.
Yeah.
you don't want to fly to land right on top of their heads either. You want to kind of lead it by, say, 30 to 60 centimeters. So if it's a dry fly, they will hear the plop or hear it land, or feel it land rather than hear. Sorry, let me just negotiate this. In front to a sort of 270-degree range is good.
Okay.
Yeah, but some species react well to a fly landing quite near to them. They kind of, if there's a hatch going on, or if you've got something buggy like a hopper or a beetle, that plop is the dinner bell for them. They're like,
like triggers a reaction.
Yeah, exactly. So
interesting.
Again, it comes with experience. You'll start to kind of see how they're feeding. You can tell when fish are extra skittish and look like they're not going to entertain your bullshit that afternoon.
Yeah, okay. And then it's a case of, if you're in that situation, I mean, it depends on how many fish there are around.
Yeah.
But if it is clear that this is a nervous Nancy fish, do you then go like, okay, this one's not going to be happening today, or do you take that as a big challenge?
Initially as a challenge. I mean, it's like with most things, you're like, I can convince you, and I think I normally do two things. One, I go smaller and lighter, so I might make my tippet, they might be shy of the tippet, so I'll go, say I was starting with 4x or 5x, I might go down to 6 or 7x, depending on the size of the fish and, the fishery itself, because then they can't see the tippet, or it's very hard for them to see it and be put off by it. And I'll go smaller on the fly. And if that doesn't work and they're still skittish, I actually go the other direction. I'll put a bigger fly on, like a streamer, and quite often, they weren't interested in a small bug, but there's a little bait fish that maybe they think is eating, their children or something.
Yeah.
Come up with whatever narrative you need, and sometimes they'll be much more aggressive about a small bait fish.
Interesting.
And then I give up and move on to a more pliable fish.
I mean, it sounds like this happened when you were in, forgive me, I forget where it was, where there were an enormous pile of a gigantic fish, and you could try all kinds of different things.
Jurassic, yeah.
That's it, Jurassic Lake. Do you ever just throw like the kitchen sink, or just do something weird and has it worked? Like, what's the weirdest stuff that you just try as like an odd approach? I mean, obviously there's a Siggy fly.
Yeah. I think it's normally when you've got nothing to lose and you've tried everything else and you're actually quite frustrated, and then it's the equivalent of a Hail Mary. Sometimes it can be the cast itself. If you can see a fish rising or feeding in a very difficult lie, with a bush coming over it, and there's the kind of back eddy. Oosh, jeez, buddy. And if that was your first cast on that fish, you might be a bit more careful, but you've now tried 15 times and you're just not getting it.
Yes.
And then you throw caution to the wind.
Yeah.
And you probably hook the bush, but that's just part and parcel.
I've done that many times.
Yeah, me too. So where we're going in now is the one where I said we'll go in. This is the office park.
Okay, cool.
Where upstream fly fishing is.
Sweet.
Hello.
Hi.
Doing a delivery to upstream? Yeah. Thank you.
It's interesting. It's like, for some reason, maybe it's when I'm close to this thing.
Is it the little wine?
I'm not sure. The wine, but it's fine. It's not a problem now.
It should be off.
I just noticed when I lean forwards, that's when it really hums. It's curious. It probably means that it won't pick up on the recording anyway. How are you for volume levels?
1 2 1 2. Can you hear me?
I think
Is
we're
that
good.
right?
How's that? I think.
Yeah. I'm happy if you're happy.
I'm happy. I'm happy.
If you're happy and you know, clap your hands. This is literally like my life at the moment is just nursery rhymes and coercing toddlers into not having tantrums.
I'm just looking through my little listy of fun stuff to talk about. I want to ask you about a couple of things.
Mm-hmm.
One is tying flies. I mean, we talked a little bit about it, but like, I mean, I was just in the shop now, that we were at. What's that shop called again?
Upstream Fly Fishing.
Okay, nice shop. I mean, like,
Very nice.
a
Yeah.
lot of nice gear in there.
And they just recently absorbed the only other Cape Town purely fly fishing shop called StreamX.
Ah,
Yeah, that guy decided he wanted out, so they bought all his stock.
okay.
Mm.
I guess what I was going to say is I was in there, and while you were having a chit chat, I was having a look around, and obviously there's a lot of nice shiny gear, but the flies are fascinating. Like the artistry, when you really see up close. I wish I'd taken some more photos of them because it's quite impressive.
Yeah.
Like the level of attention to detail, but also the creativity in creating the impression of something. And the variety. There's just so many, and each of them looks like a fuzzy little thing that I probably would nibble, if I was a fish.
Yeah.
Are there any? I mean, there's got to be some like master tires around the Cape Town area, but like, are there like any mavericks out there who do things differently or do something crazy? Or I mean, I'm going straight into the deep end.
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah. There are some in the Cape Town area. I'll mention some now. It's also, again, as what's the word I'm looking for? As varied as the fly fishing scene is in the fly tying scene, it's also super niche and sub niche and everything else. So
yeah,
if you look at our YouTube channel, we put quite a lot of our effort into step-by-step videos.
Yes, I saw.
And Matt, our video guy, Matt Kennedy, really does well on the kind of production quality, different camera angles and getting in close on the vise so you can see what's going on. Two of the guys that we work with often, who probably stand out, no offense to all the other guys, though you're all amazing, I love you all. But one is Andre van Veek. He's got a little company called Bucktail Flies.
Okay.
And he specializes in these things called beast flies,
Okay.
Which can be 20, 30 centimeters long. And I use massive things. And I mean, people pay top dollar, like literally, I think around $100 a fly.
Wow.
Yeah, because they've got this incredible movement. And, if you are paying vast amounts of money for a spot in paradise going after whether, I don't know, tarpon or giant trevally or whatever it is, spending that extra money on a top range fly, which is going to give you the best shot at that fish of a lifetime. And these are super wealthy people anyway.
Yes.
They're not going to think twice about that
yeah.
kind of thing. Whereas your average Joe is like, hell no, that's a seventh of a fly rod. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
So he stands out because he really specializes in working with that material, bucktail, and his blending of colors is really good. His color combinations to imitate various bait fish out in the tropics is really good. And his whole persona, he's got like this giant kind of poodle do of like blonde curly hair and a long beard, looks like a kind of roadie for ZZ Top, and he's covered in tattoos with like, an octopus shagging a dolphin on his neck or whatever it is. Sorry, Dre, I know it's something else. And yeah, so he's really built a niche for himself, and he's got a lot of respect in that scene. Another guy who stands out is Gordon van der Spey. He's an actor by trade, but a really good fly tyer. Teaches a lot of people how to tie flies, cool. And he's just so comfortable on camera. Doesn't mumble his words and knows, I mean, he also kind of dressed up in a dress for us and did a twirl when he was tying a damselfly imitation. And because it's the mission, we're always just like looking to fuck around a bit. And he was like, put on my wife's dress and pretended to be a damsel in distress.
Yes.
Just because he could just do a normal video like, however many other middle-aged dudes going, here I am today tying the damselfly. But being Gordon, he was up for just making it slightly more entertaining. But the actual quality of his fly tying is really top-notch, and the way the video was put together is really good as well. So, yeah, there are guys like that who have international respect, and then there are guys in the kind of closer Cape Town scene who are, or just the greater South African scene that are seen as gurus in their specific fields.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. I'm sure it's the same in archery as well, any of these things.
Yeah, in anything, right? You get your international stars and you get your local wisdom. But I do think that's it's important that wisdom gets shared, right? Like, I guess that's a cultural thing. It sounds like people are able to... Or do they keep their tying secrets to themselves? How does that work?
Some do. And others are more willing to share. Some people just fly under the radar. But you do get guys who are like, no, I'm not going to share my secret pattern. And it's like, okay, well, enjoy your...
secluded life.
Yeah, Norman nomads. No, it's not like that. But, some people... And also some people are not comfortable on camera. They're just... It's not their thing. And I respect that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And that's fine, It's often people who are crazy on that attention to detail... Maybe.
Yeah, you get... I know another guy, MC Kutzer, who's a phenomenal fly tyer, and he was the Protea fly fishing captain. So he's a very good freshwater fly fisherman, but he's also a very good saltwater fly fisherman. But he doesn't like tying away from home. It's like people who can't shit in public, what's it called, shit brick or something like that. Like, MC's the kind of shit brick equivalent of fly tying. Like, if it's not his vice at home at his desk,
he can't do it.
He probably can, but he's just not comfortable.
He's not happy.
Yeah, he's like, opts out. And again, I respect that. He's got his way. I mean, he gets up at 4 a.m. to tie before he goes to work as a lawyer. So people have their different ways.
So I want to switch paths a little bit. If it's something that you're comfortable talking about. I mean, we talked a little bit just at the very beginning.
We're going to talk about where babies come from. Again.
I'm still trying to figure it out.
I thought we covered this.
You're a man who knows. So if you can help me.
All right.
No, just like some of your other writing projects. So you've been involved in writing a few books, right? And
I've written quite a few.
I believe a ketonic diet book. Is that something? So when you're writing these things, are you writing for a project or for other people? Or is this something that you're particularly passionate about and you put it out for your? So I'm wondering, should I be asking you these questions this is the thing that you were super passionate about and this is the thing that you could talk about, or it's that's more of a role that you played within your company? Yeah. Does that make sense?
Sort of. I think I know what you're getting at. So I was a freelance writer before our company existed as a formal thing. And then we started the mission, and then the mission needed to kind of sit in a publishing house. So we started a thing called Soti Press, which is the holding company over it. And a Soti, for your information, do you know what that is? Okay, it's short.
I'm called a Soti on radio because my wife is Afrikaans.
Right. So. Okay, so we're similar. I also grew up in the UK for a few years.
Okay.
So I've been called a Soti much of my life. I've got a British and a South African passport. And a Soti, for those who don't know, it's short for Soutpil, which actually translates as salt dick. And it implies, it's a kind of mildly derogatory name for an English-speaking South African who, if you can imagine a globe, has 1 foot in South Africa, 1 foot in the UK, and his bits dangling in, I would imagine, the Atlantic Ocean, or if he's lunging, maybe in the Med.
Yes.
Or the North Sea, if he's got a really good lunge. And because I was working with Conrad and his bit of comics stuff at the time, and my wife is Afrikaans, and Conrad and his art partner Anton Kaname are Afrikaans, I was we were looking for a name, and I thought, why not put a positive spin on the Soti thing? And the positive spin is that we do cool things in Africa that we take to the rest of the world. So we might still have our dicks in the ocean. This is a very long,
I love it,
an overly detailed explanation of my nethers. But anyway, there you go.
Perfect.
And to answer your question about the books and the other stuff, so I just continued writing books. So the one in question, The Real Meal Revolution, is probably, and I stand to be corrected again by some anorak. I think after the Bible, it might be South Africa's best-selling book ever because it involved a guy called Tim Noakes, Professor Tim Noakes. He's quite a well-known scientist and sports scientist. In the Real Meal Revolution, it was all about the ketogenic diet and all of that. And the basic message was you can eat roast chicken and bacon and lose weight, and it worked for a lot of people. And I was brought in as a pen/editor for hire on that, and to help that. Also did one called a book called 6 Years with Al Qaeda.
Yes,
about Steve McGowan, the guy who was held prisoner in the Sahara Desert for a long time, and that also did quite well. It won the Essay Non-Fiction Award a few years back. It's been reprinted a few times, and just, the dude went through hell and had a remarkable story to tell. Sorry, just trying to
figure out where this place is.
Yeah, it's a little bit further down, but I often overshoot it.
So I'm curious about that, man. He must have, I guess, did that process involve sitting down with him and recording some conversations, or
it did.
He must have had some wild stories.
He did. And the whole process was really weird because it was sort of March. When did the pandemic happen? Was it 2020, 2021? I always forget.
It was 2019. It was the end of 2019.
You sure? Okay, well, anyway, whichever year.
COVID-19, so it was called COVID-19.
Okay, that makes perfect sense.
But like February 2020 was kind of like when it really really got going.
So the project kicked off in March 2020, and I was meant to fly to Joburg, where he was based, to sit with him for a week of interviews and whatever. And then, the world shut down. Yeah. And over the course of about 3 months, using Zoom, which at the time was like, not everyone used Zoom and Teams and all these things. I don't know if you remember, but like it was kind of unusual. Like maybe in corporate offices, a lot of people did those kinds of calls, but it wasn't that. It made more sense to fly me to Joburg to sit with him because, more personal, you talk to someone. Yeah. So anyway, I landed up doing that entire book, the interview process, on Zoom. I'd never met him before the actual book launch towards the end of the year. And it was bizarre, spending like 2.5, 3 hours at a pop each morning talking to the guy. And, I've done quite a few memoirs for people, but just I say to anyone I'm interviewing on that kind of level, like I'm not a psychoanalyst, but I'm going to go where my curiosity takes me. So in advance, let me know if there's anything off limits, whether it's, your relationship with your father or your wife or the Al Qaeda dude who beheaded someone in front. Like if there's something you don't want to talk about, try and tell me now because we're going to go there. Yeah. And I'm going to do my best to understand things, but I can't, I'm not a qualified therapist. I'm a writer. So, just so we have that disclaimer in there. So, we went to hectic places that I don't think he'd been with anyone else, because most people kind of ask you politely to a certain extent. Yes. And a therapy session is 1 hour. Yeah. And even your family may not want to rehash it with you and all of these things. So
you don't want to harm maybe he wants to protect his family a little bit as well.
Yeah. So it was a very immersive and a project, and just quite a fascinating thing to dive deep into. And it really took me out of like the world for about 6 months of work, just deep into that.
Did it affect you as well, in the sense that like you were hearing some really dark shit?
Yeah, I was hearing some really dark shit. I mean, it's so difficult sometimes to tell if you needed help or if you were affected. I mean, the Daily Maverick, who were the publishers of that book, were really good. They kind of, provided me with a therapist session, also on Zoom, afterwards. And I had one of those, and it was cool to talk to someone, but it wasn't my experience, if you know what I mean.
Exactly.
Like, I wasn't deeply affected by it in the same way. Of course, I was invested in it, having spoken to him and written the book with him. But that was quite a thing.
That's pretty wild.
Yeah. Okay. This one is short.
Okay.
But they sometimes make me fill out all the forms.
Okay.
Let's just do this for you.
Thanks.
Good boy.
if you're still here, I'm going to take that as a win. And also just politely remind you, it's a perfect opportunity to give the show a follow or a subscribe, and a 5-star review will go a long way in pushing this podcast onwards and upwards and mean that I get to speak to more amazing people like Tudor. Here he is now.
Okay, I'm James.
Did you manage to get out of the form filling?
Yeah, fortunately, Matt, who works in our office, seems to have pre-done everything.
Okay, nice.
Ready to go.
Are they making? Oh, they're grinding coffee here.
Yes,
That's
there.
what that smell
That
is.
one, bootleggers.
Yeah, as soon as you open the door, I was like,
Yeah, no, it's strong.
something is burning here.
Feels like they've slightly over-roasted whatever they're doing.
Well, there's some people like that. Eh?
I'm not a fan
No.
of ye old burnt coffee vibe.
I think you get along with my wife. She has some strong opinions about that kind of thing as well.
Okay, so depending on traffic, we've probably got 10 minutes to get home. It might be 5 if we get lucky.
So, you've been involved in writing for a long time. Talk to me about AI.
Well, at the moment, because I write and I edit a lot, and I can still see when things are AI written.
Yes.
You can sniff it out. The most obvious stuff, other than the whole M- thing, is that overly oppositional language. This is not just a carrot, it's a testament to root vegetables. Or, like everything is, we didn't do this, we did that. It's like, oh,
Tudor,
God.
that's how I write.
Well, there we go. But you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know what you
mean. I don't know, whoever coded Claude or ChatGPT or whatever, just why is it always that? And it's in every social media post and every newsletter, and it's just tired already.
Yeah.
It's
getting better though, isn't it?
It is getting better, of course.
It's getting
and
better. It's scary.
I mean, we do things in a kind of, like probably clunky, old school way. Like if I talk to people who have a cool story to tell, but they really struggle with writing, I actually sit with them and I'm like, tell me the story. And like quite often people speak better than they write, and I'll go, okay. And I write down or I transcribe our conversation, and then I'll put it together the way I thought they were telling it. And I send it back to them, and I'm like, how are we looking here? And, we fine tune, and you quite often get a really good story that way.
Yes.
But when it's just sent into AI, I don't like it.
I'm the same.
And, even when it's like if you put together an AI book or an AI email, and my AI email responds to your AI email, and I mean, I get it with certain things, with heavy lifting, transcribing for sure. I'm happy to hand that over to AI.
Yes.
For research, obviously with some human care kind of at the top level. But yeah, I don't like the idea of everything being farmed out that way. It cheapens it. The whole point of human experience is to do these things, whether it's play music or art or, write or sing or whatever your thing is. If it's all just farmed out, what are we? These kind of graceless amoeba that just share computer-generated or AI-generated crap. Like, sorry.
Yeah.
And I know there's tons of exceptions and tons of use cases where someone will say, but what about this? And, sure. Yeah. But on average, I think we should be trying to retain those bits for ourselves. If an AI can do the stuff that really is not that appealing.
Yes. The really dull shit.
Yeah, like fucking do my taxes, man, and make sure, that it's spot on and you get something back from me. That's great.
Yes.
Sort out the admin. Sort out,
yeah.
All of those things. And I will say thank you, just in case you turn into Terminator 15 and come after me. But yeah, I don't like the idea of farming all of that out.
It's definitely, I've got to say, with the podcast stuff, like some of the software that uses AI is really nice for pairing together visuals and audio and recommending, well, obviously, like audio quality, all those things, right? Like that's amazing.
Yeah, and cutting out the filler words. And, you know, when I'm stuck at the intersection and I'm going, like trying to gather my thoughts and not get hit by a truck.
Yeah.
Perfect time to use it. And all of those things that clean it up and make it better. I get that.
But it's not the backbone of like whatever creative output should be, right?
No, and, you know, it shouldn't take over, like, you know, sure, use it to generate some questions if you want, or to work on your existing questions or something like that. That's fine. But, I mean, it needs to be human-driven at that level. For me, I mean, I wouldn't want to read a magazine if it was mostly put together through AI. I'm not interested. I want to know it comes from some like middle-aged dude in Cape Town who's just trying to have fun.
Some level of organic suffering.
Exactly.
That's what's necessary. I mean, that does make sense, doesn't it? And I think that is also what a lot of the things that we pursue comes from, right? It's the process of like suffering, working hard. Like, it's got to be difficult, right?
Yeah. I mean, it was what you were talking about you're out there fly fishing and you tied the fly and you've worked hard and you've figured out this fish and you finally catch it and you feel that kind of relief, as, you know, it's the reward, pride, sure, like whatever. Now imagine you'd farmed all of that out.
You just show up.
Yeah, and like, what if the AI had done all the work on reading the water for you, and do you even get to fight the fish, and you have your photo? Like, how empty would that all feel? I feel the same way for like creative endeavors. If we're handing it all over, I think we're just going to have a emptier, more unhappy society. So
I wonder, there is already starting to be a bit of a kickback against it. So I can't remember the term because I'm very bad at remembering what young people lingo is, but it's something like difficulty maxing.
The youth. Difficulty max.
It's like hard or friction maxing. That's what it is. I think, which sounds like a porn website.
Yeah, no, it's all this stuff like looks maxing, like hit yourself in the face with a hammer and then you go friction maxing. You mean just doing the work? We've got to come up with a term for it.
We're going to name this this podcast Two Middle-Aged Dudes in a Car.
Lust maxing, aka getting laid.
But that doesn't happen anymore, does it?
No, I don't think kids do that anymore.
No. Social media's too good. Yeah. So I guess I wonder then maybe that kickback against it will happen, and the frame of reference is like, oh, yeah, okay, everything's so easy and it's kind of fun. But I guess this is the thing I heard, is that like watching YouTube, like my nephews and nieces, they watch YouTube of people playing video games because apparently it's like 90% as satisfying as playing the video game yourself. That's just a different generation, right?
Different.
Like, it's
Look,
wild.
I mean, I hardly got into video games, and it was mainly because I really took dying in a video game quite personally. So
it's an emotional process.
Yeah, no, like a little part of me died, you know. So I kind of maybe understand watching it like that. But I mean, I think I could watch someone play video games for about 10 minutes and then I'll be like, okay.
Yeah.
Like, quite impressive. You got the shiny object and the sword of Excalibur, but I'm going to just go live my life now. You know, so anyway, whatever.
I agree with you.
Different times.
It is. It'll be interesting to see what happens. Okay, last thing I wanted to ask you about. I don't know if I'm pronouncing this correctly, but you mentioned it in the shop that we're at. Ralph. Or Ralph.
Yes. Yeah.
Emphasis on the
yeah, okay.
So that's something that's going to be happening this year, right?
Yes, in August.
And what does it stand for?
Okay, so we're just calling it Rough. I mean, Rough, but with a little bit of a pirate intonation.
Okay.
It's our fly fishing film festival run by the Mission. It stands for Raw African Unfiltered Fly Fishing Film Festival for fornicators, family, friends, and fuck-ups. So basically add as many Fs as you like. It's a mild piss take at the two existing global film festivals. One is called F3T, the other is called IF4. They're both festivals that we've supported for the last 10 years, putting magazines on seats, and we're not like anti them at all. It's just no one can tell the difference between them because they sound very similar. So we thought we'd just take the mickey a little bit with Rough. And the idea is we're going to focus on, like with the magazine, focus on African species, characters and destinations, and have more humor in the films, which is kind of the mission's signature style. We also want to do like in between the films, a bit like the old MTV shorts that you used to get. So they'll be called rough cuts, and basically every fly angler I know has some clips on their phones of like things going disastrously wrong or right while out fly fishing, but they're not necessarily going to turn into full-length feature films.
Yes.
So our idea is to try and get as many of those in as possible to make these
Cool.
rough cuts in between. So just a little bit more kind of like community driven.
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
Yeah, and I mean, for years I've had guys go to the festivals and go like, because we put mags on the seats, there's been a lot of criticism that they're too American or they're too this or too slow or too whatever, too sentimental. And I think whenever there's been an African focus or, film focused on, say, Gabon or the Seychelles or tigerfish or yellowfish or whatever, it's had a great response, and I think our readership will respond really well to a festival that speaks to them like that. So this year is the proof of concept here. If we can break even, that's enough. And then in future years, if we can get some serious sponsorship, that would be great. And we'll see where we go from there.
Cool. Yeah, it sounds fun, man. I look forward to seeing how's that going to work. I guess it'll be...
Yeah, we'll have Cape Town, Joburg and Durban venues, and then probably one in the Midlands somewhere, and then I think Neisner will happen, and maybe somewhere like Dahlstrom, which is a trout centre as well. So it could easily happen there as well. A lot will just depend on our own budget, because we want to be at each one to kind of represent and just getting around the country. So we need to make sure that we don't blow the budget. But I think it'll be well received. We'll see. But if you're interested, once I've got the full thing, I'll send you the films.
I'd love to. Yeah, I'd love to have a watch, man.
Sure.
That'll be fun. Okay, awesome, man. Well, I think that pretty much wraps us up. But first of all, thank you.
You're welcome.
Fantastic driving around with you and delivering the mission.
I'm just glad that I got this car back, because the other one's aircon is broken, and we would not be happy campers in that. We would have had to go in your little one with...
which would have been...
Yeah, we probably could have got the boxes in there.
Yeah, I was wondering if that was going to be the case. Nice. So how can people find you? I mean, I know the mission is South Africa based. There is a pretty decent South Africa listenership here, but I mean,
Sure.
Do that spiel bit.
Do the spiel. Okay, so we are at the missionflymag.com. Our entire archive is free to read online. And, if you happen to be in South Africa, the Seychelles, Dubai, Australia, and now the USA, that we do have outlets in different places. You can just look on our stockists list on our website, and the free magazine is available there, although in places like Australia and the USA, they have to put a bit of a price tag on it, because they're getting it across there. They're paying for the shipping.
Importation or whatever.
Yeah. And we put out a new magazine every 2 months, so 6 issues a year. And we have a very active YouTube channel as well, and you can find us on Instagram and Facebook. It's just the Mission Fly Mag. So we're pretty much everywhere, and one of these days we'd like to do a podcast too. So anyway,
it's
all about finding the time.
Yeah, of course.
We also got to fish somewhere in between.
That's the thing. That's the thing, right? Well, thanks, dude. And at some point, I'd love to get out on the water with you at some point.
Well, if you're coming back to the Cape often, let's do it.
Okay. Yeah,
seriously.
Lekker.
How much longer are you going to be around here now?
2 months.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah. Okay. No, well, then I'll take you out with Platon, but let's wait for the temperatures to die down a little bit.
Oven.
Yeah, no, in the next week or two. I mean, weren't you going to Joburg for a bit and then back again?
Just for like a week.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're going to be traveling around a bit.
Yeah.
Well, good, man. Awesome.
Okay, we'll make that happen. I've got enough kit for both of us.
Fantastic. Okay, I'm going to push stop.
Cool.
Okay, that's another episode done and dusted. Thank you again, Tudor, for being such a fantastic guest. You have a very sharp sense of humor, and I enjoy it thoroughly. It comes through in the conversation that we had, and also in the amazing magazine that you hold the tiller steering. So thank you, and once again, congratulations for all that you do. If anyone is looking on YouTube, you might see there's a bit of a mess in the background. I am furiously packing, about to jump in the car and drive for, I haven't even looked, I fear maybe 11 or 12 hours over to the Eastern Cape. I'm going to spend maybe 10 days over there with my bow, getting up to mischief. I've got some great opportunities, some wonderful places, catching up with some old friends, meeting some new ones. Yeah, there's going to be some new guests in the pipeline because of this trip as well. So I'm excited to get this ball rolling. Once again, it would be amazing if you could give us a follow or a subscribe. It really does me a favor and helps the podcast to grow and means I get more access to amazing guests, amazing opportunities that I can share with you guys. That's all for now. Thanks for listening, and until next time.
Welcome to the Wild Dispatch.